The same white powder sitting at the back of your pantry shelf is administered by doctors in emergency situations inside hospitals. That sentence sounds impossible. It is not. Baking soda is not a kitchen ingredient. It never was. And that confusion has a real cost. You are probably using it wrong every time you cook and throwing away packages that still work. Throughout this video, you will understand why this mineral is sometimes injected directly into the bloodstream of critically ill patients, how to test whether yours is still active, and what you are really putting in your food. If you enjoy discovering the stories and the reasons behind simple things, subscribe to the channel. Baking soda is not a human invention, it is a mineral. It has existed in nature for millions of years in the form of a rock called nacolite, found in deposits of ancient lakes that evaporated in arid regions of the planet. To give you a sense of the scale, the largest known reserve is located in the state of Wyoming in the United States, buried hundreds of feet underground, formed when that territory was still a prehistoric lake. Ancient Egyptians worked with compounds from the same mineral family, especially natron, a mixture of salts that contains bicarbonate in its composition and that they used to mummify bodies, manufacture glass, and treat wounds. The pure version you know today was only isolated and produced commercially in the 19th century. In 1846, in the United States, two chemists began selling baking soda as a household ingredient. In less than 2 decades, the product was in practically every kitchen in the country. But the mineral itself always existed. It was always here. You buy at the supermarket something the earth had been producing long before any civilization. So why do most people think baking soda is simply a kitchen ingredient created by the industry? The answer lies in the way we learn to use it. Recipes call for baking soda. The package sits in the cabinet between the flour and the sugar, and when the subject comes up in conversation, someone always mentions that it only serves to remove odors from the refrigerator or cut through grease on the stovetop. That combination of domestic uses created a very specific perception. Baking soda is a cleaning and cooking product, artificially manufactured with no documented history before that. But that perception is incomplete. Baking soda is a mineral. Its most precise name in chemistry is sodium hydrogen carbonate, and it exists in natural deposits in various places on the planet, especially in regions where ancient lakes evaporated over millions of years. What the chemical industry does today is not create baking soda from scratch. It is reproducing in a laboratory something that nature had already produced long before. And that fundamental difference completely changes the way you understand what you are putting in your food. But understanding what baking soda is requires understanding what it does in practice. And here the chemistry is simpler and more elegant than it seems. Baking soda is a base, the chemical opposite of an acid. When you put baking soda in contact with any acidic substance, the two react. And that reaction releases carbon dioxide. It may sound very abstract, but you have already seen this happen hundreds of times. It is exactly what occurs when you mix baking soda with lemon juice. The foam that forms is bubbles of carbon dioxide being released. In baking, those bubbles get trapped inside the dough and make it rise efficiently. That is the mechanism. Now notice the detail that most people miss. Baking soda alone, without an acid present in the mixture, does not work the same way. It needs an acidic partner to release the gas that makes the rising happen. That is why recipes with baking soda almost always include yogurt, honey, cocoa, or lemon juice. Without one of those acidic ingredients present, the baking soda remains completely inactive and the result disappoints. And this is where things get really interesting. The common white powder you use to bake a cake at home is exactly the same molecule that doctors use inside hospitals. Baking soda has documented and widely practiced clinical applications. When the human body enters acidosis, a state in which the blood becomes excessively acidic for various reasons, doctors administer baking soda directly into the bloodstream to rebalance the patient's pH. The chemical logic is exactly the same as in the kitchen, a base neutralizing an acid. But the scale is completely different. Beyond emergency hospital use, high-performance athletes, especially in endurance sports and swimming, use baking soda before competitions to delay the muscular acidosis generated by intense effort. The human muscle under maximum exertion produces large amounts of lactic acid. Baking soda neutralizes part of that acid and allows the athlete to sustain intensity for longer. The compound forgotten at the back of your pantry shelf is exactly the same one found in emergency medical protocols and in the daily routines of Olympic athletes. The presence of baking soda in the modern world goes far beyond the kitchen and the hospital. When European and American chemists managed to synthesize baking soda artificially at large scale in the mid-19th century, it triggered an industrial transformation that few people can fully appreciate. The mass production of inexpensive baking soda made industrial baking possible on a global scale. Before that, making bread rise depended exclusively on fermentation with yeast, a slow process that took hours. Baking soda accelerated all of that and changed the way the world eats. But its uses did not stop at the kitchen. That same multifunctional compound became a fundamental ingredient in toothpaste, where it acts as a cleaning agent and neutralizer of oral acidity. It became the active ingredient in stomach antacids sold in pharmacies all over the world. It became a component of fire extinguishers, where the chemical reaction with heat releases enough carbon dioxide to suffocate the flames. Today, billions of pounds of baking soda are produced annually, extracted from trona mines, the same mineral the Egyptians were collecting 3,000 years ago. Now that you understand what baking soda really is, some very common mistakes start to make more sense to avoid. The first and most frequent is using baking soda in recipes that simply have no acidic ingredient. Without acid present, there is no reaction, no carbon dioxide, no rise. The dough turns out dense and with a bitter aftertaste that is difficult to disguise. The second very common mistake is confusing baking soda with baking powder. Baking powder already contains the acid within its own formula and therefore works on its own. Baking soda is the pure compound, without an acidic partner included in the package. The third mistake, and this is the one that wastes the most money, is throwing away expired baking soda without testing it first. To find out if yours is still active, put 1 teaspoon in a glass with vinegar. If it bubbles vigorously, it is still working. If the reaction is weak or absent, then it is time to replace it. Storing it in a humid place also compromises its efficiency, because moisture can trigger a partial reaction before the baking soda even reaches the recipe. The next time you open that little white box, remember that you are not holding a kitchen ingredient. You are holding a mineral with 3,000 years of history that travels from the oven to the operating room. Leave a like, subscribe to Simple Things and Their Secrets. See you in the next one.